They told you Bastet was the cat goddess, a cute, harmless deity for people who like cats. They put her statue in museum gift shops, a quaint relic from a forgotten time, a symbol of domesticity, perfume, and pleasure. But that is a lie. A deliberate and profound deception designed to make you overlook one of the most powerful, complex, and dangerous feminine archetypes in spiritual history. Bastet was never just a house cat. She was the guardian at the gate, the all-seeing eye that pierces the darkness, the purring goddess of sacred sensuality and the roaring lioness of divine wrath, all in one. They domesticated her image, declawed her, and turned her into a gentle pet because they did not want you to remember her true nature. Because a woman or a man who embodies the full spectrum of Bastet is utterly ungovernable. They separated her from her shadow, her warrior self, the lioness Sekhmet, because they needed you to believe that you had to choose, to be either soft or strong, either loving or fierce, either a kitten or a killer. But the truth is, you are both. And your power lies not in choosing one, but in integrating the two. The true Bastet is the guardian of your sacred inner space, the keeper of your joy, and the fierce protector of your boundaries. And in a world that constantly seeks to invade, diminish, and distract you, her energy is not a myth you study. It is a power you must awaken within yourself, right now, if you wish to not only survive, but thrive. To truly understand Bastet, you must first understand the lie of her separation. In the earliest days, the goddess of the wild feminine was a singular, terrifying, and beautiful force. Sekhmet, the lioness-headed goddess, the powerful one. She was the eye of Ra, the embodiment of the sun's fiery, destructive, and purifying rage. She was the warrior who defended the divine order, Ma'at, and annihilated all who threatened it. She was divine wrath incarnate. But as civilization grew, as cities were built, and society became more ordered, this raw, untamed power became too much for the patriarchal systems to handle. They needed a more civilized version of the feminine. And so, a miraculous transformation occurred in the mythology. The fierce Sekhmet was pacified, her rage soothed, and she was transformed into her gentler aspect. Bastet, the cat. This was not just a story changing over time. This was a spiritual and political act of suppression. They took the lioness and told her she was now a house cat. They took the untamed wild and told it to sit by the hearth. And in doing so, they created a schism, a split in the divine feminine that echoes in your own psyche to this day. They taught you that you had to choose. You could be the good girl, the gentle, loving, purring Bastet. Or you could be the angry bitch, the roaring, destructive Sekhmet. You were taught to be ashamed of your anger, to fear your own power, to suppress your inner lioness, lest you be seen as monstrous. And you were taught to see gentleness and sensuality as a form of weakness, a tool for pleasing others rather than a state of sovereign joy. But the ancients knew the truth. Bastet and Sekhmet are not two different goddesses. They are two faces of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. Bastet represents the profound joy, the deep peace, the sensual pleasure, and the loving connection that is only possible when you feel absolutely safe. And what makes you safe? The knowledge that your inner Sekhmet, the roaring lioness, is standing guard at the border of your being, ready to annihilate anything or anyone that threatens your sacred space. Your capacity for deep, purring love is directly proportional to your capacity for fierce, boundary-defending rage. One cannot exist without the other. A cat is not just a soft, purring creature. It is a silent, efficient predator. It is relaxed because it is powerful. It is gentle because it knows it can defend itself in an instant. This is the integrated power of Bastet. This is the integration you are being called to embody. To heal the split they forced upon you, to understand that your softness is not a weakness and your anger is not a sin. Your gentleness is the expression of a heart that feels safe. And your sacred rage is the love of that heart in its fiercest, most protective form. The path of Bastet is the path of wholeness. It is the journey of reclaiming both the purr and the roar. It is knowing when to nurture and when to destroy, when to be the calm hearth and when to be the consuming fire. When you integrate these two forces within you, you become unshakable. You are no longer a victim of the world's chaos because you carry both the peace that transcends it and the power that can command it. You are no longer trying to be a good woman or a tame man. You are simply becoming a whole, divine human being, a walking temple of the one great goddess in all her beautiful and terrifying forms. The power of Bastet is subtle, silent, and sees through all deception. To understand her, you must understand the sacred animal she embodies, the cat. Why was the cat so revered in ancient Egypt, a civilization of profound mystical wisdom? Because they saw in the cat a living master of the unseen world. Cats see in the dark. This is not just a physical trait, it is a spiritual metaphor. Bastet is the principle of the all-seeing eye, the intuitive guardian who can perceive the threats that hide in the shadows, the darkness, the subconscious. She is the master of discerning truth from illusion. Her gaze is penetrating, unwavering, and utterly unimpressed by surfaces. While others are fooled by charming words or a pleasing appearance, the energy of Bastet feels the frequency beneath. It knows. This is why Bastet was invoked as the great protector against unseen evils. She wasn't just guarding the home from physical threats like snakes or scorpions. She was the guardian of the energetic space. She protected against negative entities, psychic attacks, wandering spirits, and the subtle emotional manipulations that most humans are completely blind to. She is the ultimate spiritual boundary keeper, and you have this power within you. It is your intuition, that cat-like sense you have, that quiet, gut-level knowing that tells you when a person's energy is off, when a situation feels wrong, when a promise sounds hollow. That is the eye of Bastet, seeing through the veil. The system you live in has waged a war on this sense. They have taught you to doubt it, to rationalize it away. They call it paranoia or being judgmental. They want you to rely only on external, verifiable data. Why? Because a person who trusts their intuition is immune to propaganda. They cannot be manipulated by charismatic leaders or slick advertising. They feel the truth, and no amount of logical argument can sway them from it. Your intuition is a threat to their control. Reclaiming the power of Bastet is reclaiming the sovereignty of your inner knowing. It is learning to trust that subtle feeling in your gut more than the loud voices of the world. It is the courage to act on what you feel, even when you can't logically explain it. This leads to another of her great powers, the sacred, unapologetic no. Observe a cat. If it does not like something, a person, a food, a touch, it does not debate. It does not try to be polite. It does not worry about hurting anyone's feelings. It simply gets up and walks away. This is a profound teaching in energetic conservation. Bastet teaches you to fiercely guard your sacred space and your life force. You do not owe your energy to anyone or anything that feels misaligned. You do not have to justify your boundaries. Your no is a complete sentence. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your time, and your energy, the ability to disengage with the swift, silent grace of a cat is a superpower. It is the ultimate act of self-worth. You are not required to participate in every drama. You are not required to engage with every argument. You are not required to stay in rooms where your spirit feels diminished. To embody Bastet is to become a master of the graceful exit. You learn to discern what nourishes you and what drains you, and you move toward one and away from the other, swiftly, silently, and without apology. This isn't about being cold or unloving. It is the opposite. By protecting your own energy, you ensure that the love and attention you do give is pure, powerful, and comes from a full vessel, not from a place of depletion or obligation. You stop being a resource for others to consume and become a sacred sanctuary that only those who resonate with your truth are invited to enter. This is the wisdom of the all-seeing guardian. She sees the threat, she sets the boundary, and she rests in the peace she has created for herself. That is not just a power, it is your birthright. The system has taught you that spirituality is a solemn, serious affair. A path of austerity, self-denial, and the suppression of the body's desires. But Bastet laughs at this lie. She is the lady of perfume, the mistress of the dance, the goddess of joy. She teaches a radical, world-changing truth. Pleasure is not a distraction from the divine. It is a doorway to it. In ancient Egypt, her festivals were the largest and most ecstatic in the land. People would travel down the Nile on barges, drinking, singing, dancing, and celebrating with an uninhibited joy that is almost unimaginable to the modern, repressed mind. This was not a mindless party. It was a sacred act of worship. It was a mass ritual of raising the collective vibration through the power of joy. Bastet understood that a soul that is fully alive, fully embodied, and reveling in the sensory beauty of existence is a soul that is close to God. Her association with perfume is not about superficial vanity. For the ancients, perfume, incense, and sacred oils were not cosmetics. They were a form of alchemical technology. Each scent had a specific frequency, a specific power to purify a space, to elevate the mind, to invoke a certain state of consciousness. To anoint oneself with sacred oil was to prepare the body as a temple, to make oneself a worthy vessel for the divine. It was an act of honoring the body, not a way of hiding it. Bastet teaches that beauty is a spiritual practice, to adorn your body, to beautify your home, to surround yourself with things that delight your senses. This is not materialism or narcissism. It is a sacred act of creating heaven on earth. It is a declaration that you are a divine being who is worthy of living in a beautiful, joyful, and sensuous reality. This is a truth that the systems of control, especially patriarchal religions, had to destroy. They needed you to believe that the body was sinful, that pleasure was a trap, and that your desires were the voice of the devil. They taught you that to be holy, you must suffer. You must deny your senses. You must disconnect from your own vibrant, joyful life force. Why? Because a person who is ashamed of their body and afraid of their own pleasure is easy to control. They will look outside of themselves for salvation. They will police their own joy. They will live in a state of low-grade guilt and deprivation. And a deprived population is a docile one. The suppression of sacred sensuality is not about morality. It is about power. They cut you off from the joyful, celebratory energy of Bastet, so you would forget the vibrant, divine being you truly are. To reclaim the path of Bastet is to stage a rebellion of joy. It is to give yourself unapologetic permission to feel good. To dance, not for an audience, but for the sheer bliss of movement. To listen to music that makes your soul vibrate. To savor your food. To delight in the warmth of the sun on your skin. To see your own sensuality not as a source of shame, but as a source of sacred power. It is to understand that your orgasm can be a prayer, a portal to cosmic consciousness. It is to know, deep in your bones, that you are worthy of pleasure simply because you exist. A person who knows their own worth, who can generate their own joy, who finds the divine in their own sensory experience, is a person who cannot be bought. They cannot be sold the empty promises of consumerism. They cannot be controlled by the threat of external validation being withheld. They are sovereign. They are whole. And that is the most dangerous truth of all. The path to enlightenment is not paved with suffering. It is paved with the conscious, sacred, and unapologetic pursuit of joy. The power of Bastet, with her fierce independence, her sovereign sensuality, and her unapologetic joy, was a direct threat to the world that was coming. As the fertile crescent gave way to the iron fist of empire, as the balanced pantheons were replaced by singular, jealous, mild gods, the goddess had to be brought to heel. The war against Bastet was a war against the sovereignty of the feminine spirit itself, and it was waged with a subtle and brutal efficiency. First, they split her. Then, they demonized her symbol. And finally, they trivialized her memory. The decline began with the foreign invasions of Egypt. The Persians, then the Greeks, and finally the Romans brought their own gods and their own patriarchal biases. They could not understand a goddess who was both a nurturing mother and a terrifying warrior, both a sensual dancer and an independent queen. They needed to put her in a box. So, they emphasized her gentle cat form and downplayed her connection to the lioness Sekhmet. The first act of suppression was to make her seem less dangerous. But the real war began as Christianity swept across the world. The new religion, with its emphasis on sin, asceticism, and the evils of the flesh, could not tolerate a goddess like Bastet. She represented everything they sought to condemn. And so, her sacred animal, the cat, became a target. In medieval Europe, the cat, once revered as a divine guardian, was systematically transformed into a symbol of evil. It became the familiar of the witch, a consort of the devil. Its nocturnal nature, its silent grace, its mysterious independence, all the qualities the Egyptians had honored, were now evidence of its demonic connection. The black cat, in particular, became a vessel for all the fears of the dark, the unseen, and the untamed feminine. This was not a random folkloric shift. This was a targeted campaign of psychological warfare. By demonizing the cat, they were demonizing the feminine principles it represented: intuition, independence, and sensuality. This campaign culminated in the horror of the witch hunts. The war on the witch was a war on the last living remnants of Bastet consciousness. Who was the witch? She was the independent woman who lived on the fringes of society, the healer who knew the old ways, the crone who trusted her intuition more than the priest's dogma, the woman who was unapologetically connected to her sensual and creative power, the woman who, more often than not, kept the company of cats. She was the final echo of the priestess of Bast, and for that, she had to be silenced, tortured, and burned. The system needed to make an example of her, to instill a deep, ancestral terror in all women who might dare to reclaim their power. Today, the war is more subtle and perhaps even more insidious. They no longer need to burn the witch. They just need to make her irrelevant. The power of Bastet has been trivialized. She has been reduced to a cartoon, a cute emoji, a quirky knick-knack for your shelf. Her name is associated with the crazy cat lady trope, a figure of pity and ridicule, a woman whose connection to the feline world is seen as a substitute for real human relationships. This is the final stage of suppression, to take something powerful and make it seem silly, to take a sovereign goddess and turn her into a harmless hobby. They want you to see a statue of Bastet and think cute cat, not fierce guardian of the unseen. They want you to laugh at the crazy cat lady, so you never recognize her as the modern-day priestess who has chosen the company of intuitive masters over the noise of a disconnected society. They buried her power first under fear, and now under a mountain of dismissive, patronizing triviality. But they made a critical error. They forgot that a cat always lands on its feet. And the spirit of the goddess, no matter how far it falls, always finds a way to rise again. The age of forgetting is over. The goddess is rising, not from the ruins of an ancient temple, but from the depths of your own soul. To awaken your inner Bastet is the ultimate act of rebellion against a system that has tried for millennia to keep you small, tame, and afraid. It is the conscious choice to reclaim your full spectrum, to be both the gentle hearth and the roaring fire, to embody the sacred paradox of the divine feminine. This is not about worshipping a goddess. It is about becoming one. The path begins with the establishment of sacred boundaries. Your energy is your most precious currency. Bastet teaches you to guard it with the fierceness of a lioness. Learn to say no without guilt. Learn to walk away from people, places, and situations that drain your spirit. Your inner sanctuary is a holy place. Not everyone deserves an invitation. This is not selfish. It is sacred. By protecting your energy, you ensure that you have a wellspring of power to draw from, for your own joy and for the protection of those you love. Next, you must honor your intuition as your most infallible guide. The subtle whispers, the gut feelings, the sudden knowings. This is your inner cat seeing in the dark. You must practice trusting this sense above all others, above logic, above experts, above the deafening noise of the world. Meditate not just for peace, but for clarity. Ask your inner guardian to show you what is unseen. And when she shows you, you must have the courage to act on it. This is how you reclaim your magical sight. And you must, unapologetically, reclaim your right to joy. This is perhaps the most revolutionary act of all. In a world that profits from your misery, choosing joy is an act of war. Make your life a temple of sensual delight. Adorn your body. Fill your home with beauty. Dance to music that moves your soul. Savor your food. Take pleasure in your own existence. Frame this not as indulgence, but as a sacred ritual of self-worth. Treat your self-care as a devotional practice to the goddess within. A joyful soul is a powerful soul, and its radiance is a shield against the darkness. This path also demands that you integrate your sacred rage. Stop being afraid of your own fire. Your anger at injustice, at cruelty, at the violation of the sacred, that is the roar of Sekhmet. It is a holy energy. Do not suppress it. Do not numb it. Learn to feel it, to honor it, and to channel it with conscious intent. Let it be the fuel that motivates you to create change, to speak truth to power, to defend the defenseless. A woman in touch with her sacred rage is a force of nature that can move mountains. Finally, you must trust your inner claws. This is your power of discernment, your ability to cut through illusion, to end what needs to end, to remove what is toxic from your life swiftly and decisively. It is not about being cruel. It is about being clear. Like a cat, you learn when to fight, when to flee, when to simply turn your back and walk away, conserving your energy for what truly matters. To embody Bastet is to become a guardian of your own soul, a guardian of your joy, a guardian of your boundaries, a guardian of the sacred space you create in the world. You are not here to be a passive observer of a world in chaos. You are here to be a point of sovereign, joyful, and fiercely protected order within it. You are the eye of the storm, the calm in the chaos, the purr in the heart of the roar. This is the legacy she offers you. The deeper mysteries of this path, the rituals of the wild feminine, are not for public consumption. They are for the sincere initiate. If you feel the call to walk this path in its fullness, our newsletter, Insights Academy, is where we share these hidden teachings. The link is in the description. Join us and receive a free copy of the Kybalion to guide your journey into the laws of the universe. The goddess was never lost. She was simply waiting for you to remember her name, which is your own. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting. I understood it.